Okay. Hi, I'm Linda Brubaker, and this is Job Search Lunch and Learn. We're a job seeker support group. We're here to provide support, advice, answer your questions, give you whatever resources we can to help you along your job search way. I'm a job search coach, and I've been doing this in a dedicated fashion now for the past 7 years, but I'm building on over 20 years of experience as a recruiter, a headhunter, an HR business partner, and a hiring manager. So I'm giving advice based on all sides of that recruiting desk. I do this as a labor of love. This is my way of giving back. And I support my ability to give back by being able to do some one-on-one coaching. So if you're interested in that one-on-one coaching for either additional resume help, for LinkedIn profile and engagement, for interview prep, and that's something I'm doing a lot of these days, or for any other aspect of your job search, including which kind of jobs do I apply for, please reach out. I would love to work with you. Okay, that's the end of my commercial. I will put my stuff in the chat in a little bit. Now let's focus in on you. Sue, welcome back. Sue is somebody who is one of my mentors, my support system, and she joins us almost every week. So I'd like to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself too.
Thanks, Linda. I'm happy to be back after a couple weeks of vacation, and I discovered last week the original appointment through June had apparently dropped off, and I didn't realize it till you already through the meeting. I do watch the recordings. Linda lets me come because I'm not just her mentor. We're actually, I would say we co-mentor each other in many ways. We also support each other. I have a global mentoring practice, which means I work with people all over the world. And all of you are in global situations, whether we realize it day to day or not. I'm also known as Sue Mentors in the virtual world, and a lot of you know me already. I bring the pom-poms for celebrating anything. And Linda's been really great in meetings to remind people celebrating rejections is at least you heard back. So there are lots of things for us to celebrate together. But seriously, if I can help you at all, the best way to get me is Sue Griffey or Sue Mentors on LinkedIn. That finds me because I joined early. I'm easy to find. I'd be glad to answer questions. I occasionally meet with you all and with people who reach out and chat and help you move along on your next career step. Thanks, Linda.
Thank you, Sue. And I'm so glad that you're back. You'll have to tell me about your vacation later. Okay. All right. We always start these meetings with quick wins. We do this for a couple of reasons, one of which is we want to celebrate you, but it's also important for other people to know that people are having some sort of success. And in my mind, success is not just getting a job. It's not just getting an interview. It's getting some sort of a contact. It's making a good networking connection. It's trying something different that worked or maybe didn't work. It's even getting a rejection because you heard back and now what are you going to do with it? So you're getting that activity and we really truly want to celebrate you. So if you've got a quick win that you would like to share, please raise your digital hand. And if you don't know where it is, it should be at the bottom of your screen. If you can't find it there, it might be in reactions or in more. So does anybody have a quick win that they would like to share? Okay, Karen. Karen, can you unmute? Karen, can you unmute? All right, while she's figuring it out, has anybody else got a quick win to share? Oh my goodness. All right, Bo.
So I hope this provides an idea for some of you too. My mom lives at a senior facility in my area here in the western suburbs, and it's been a wonderful experience. She's been there 7 years. So I reached out to the executive director to talk with him about creating a new position that they don't have. Someone who could be an outreach ambassador, someone who could help them with sales and with getting more donors and more volunteers. And it was just a try out of the blue. We had a surprisingly good meeting. We'll see where it goes. But he mentioned back to me, so you'd kind of like be an outreach ambassador for us? Yes, that's exactly the title I was thinking. You'd be game to go out there and go to farmers markets and all that. And yes, absolutely. So Don't only focus only on what you see advertised. If there's a place that you're passionate about, reach out to them and pitch them, because the great thing is if by chance you're not competing against anybody else, just yourself.
That's great. And that's actually something that few people think about. If you have an organization or something that you're interested in, you have nothing to lose by talking to them, giving them ideas. It's a good networking, if nothing else. And you may get some ideas, even if they're not interested in a position, but they may give you some other ideas of things that you might be able to do or people you might be able to talk to. And if you have a good conversation here and this one doesn't work out, that's something else that you can then bring to other similar kinds of locations. So I think it's a great idea. Congratulations, Bo. Keep us posted.
Thank you. Sure will. Thanks a lot.
Karen, looks like you've been able to unmute now.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Karen, are you on here twice? Do you have both your phone and your computer on for this? If you've signed in both on your phone and your computer, you're going to get an echo when you talk. There you
Okay.
go. Perfect.
All right. No, it's still there. All right. Yeah.
Karen, I have a suggestion. Why don't you log off, log back on, and we'll bring you back up again. Okay. Anyone else have a quick win while we're waiting for Karen to come back in? So how has the week been, people? Have you seen some activity? Are you getting things out there? Okay. I will tell you then what I'm going to do while we're waiting for Karen to come back is do my quick cracked crystal ball. Those of you who've been with me for a while know that every once in a while I'll do that. Okay. I give you my view of what's going on in the job market. I call it a cracked crystal ball because nobody can predict, but based on what I'm seeing in the market, based on what I'm hearing from other recruiters, other career coaches, from industry leaders, and from the economists that I follow, we're still in that strange, fluxy job market. We're starting to see more layoffs again, especially in tech-related areas. We are seeing some hiring. And actually, summer is a great time to get yourself out there and continue to apply, because companies have just, in many cases, started their new fiscal year. And so they have money to spend. Those positions are open and they need to be able to fill them to move forward. But that said, we are also seeing that some companies are changing those positions from W-2 full-time positions to contract roles. We're seeing the number of contract opportunities increase almost exponentially. That companies are taking full-time positions and moving them to contract roles. That people are advertising contract roles from the get-go. Don't shy away from applying for a contract position. Contract positions help you in so many ways, not just the ability to get a paycheck coming in, but the ability to make new connections, showcase and learn new skills that you can add that will help you move to your next forever job. It gives you new people that you can use as potential references. It helps you try out something new. If you're in a contract role and a role within that company becomes available, you now have an internal source to help you move forward for that position. So there are lots of great things about contracts. So I really don't want you to think about moving away from it. You'll also notice, and Kimberly, I see your hand up, and I'll get to you in just a second. But you notice when I talked about W-2 roles as opposed to full-time roles, okay, or real jobs. I don't believe any longer in forever jobs. And unfortunately, as we've seen in the past, companies don't either. So I look at it as your next role, and it always needs to be the role that works best for you. When that role no longer works, then you find something else. And the same is true in terms of job search. You look for the job that is the best opportunity for you. Okay, whether that's contract, part-time, full-time, in an industry you haven't been in before or not. Think about the culture, think about what you're going to be doing, think about the people, think about the opportunities, and go for that next forever job, even if that's a contract. Okay, off my soapbox. Kimberly.
Hi, Linda. So I was going to kind of just go over like a half win, I guess, because I've applied to a bunch of different HR roles across like talent acquisition manager to HRBP, all the different like scope within the HR space. And I am mostly looking at aerospace and defense, which is mostly large companies. And so it's been a little bit challenging to like infiltrate into the, finding the recruiter and all of that. But last week I did have a recruiter reach out for a phone screen, which was amazing. I was super excited. I immediately replied with all my availability and have been ghosted. I have not heard anything back after that. So I was super excited. So again, I call it a half win because they at least reached out, but haven't heard anything since. So, and that has actually happened twice with two of the large companies, two different companies, very similar roles. So in the last week, I've had two recruiters reach out for phone screens that are internal recruiters. They're not agency, but they're internal to the corporation. And they have asked for my availability for a role that I've applied to. And then once I reply with my availability, have completely disappeared.
Okay.
So good and bad. So, halfway there, but, still kind of like that's been my week.
Yeah, sorry about that. And I'm sorry to say that unfortunately, I see the ghosting continue and to some extent growing again. It's a very bad situation. I was going to ask whether or not it was an internal or an external recruiter. Unfortunately, you said it was internal. So one of the things you can do if it is an internal recruiter and they asked for your availability, what that means is you probably have their contact information. So I would reach back out to them if you haven't heard within a week. Okay. And say, I'm really excited. I wanted to give you an update on my schedule so that we can continue to move forward in scheduling the interview.
So how much is too much? I think like that's where I'm totally fine with being persistent. And I have with the first one that reached out on the Monday, I have already sent 3 follow-ups. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, am I too much? Like, have I gotten to the point of I'm annoying?
Yes.
So
But
yeah.
You're a recruiter. Put yourself on the other side of the desk. Okay, that email. 3 emails since Monday. And this is only Wednesday?
No, Monday of last week.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Otherwise, I would say you're stalking. Don't.
I'm ready to. I'm like borderline ready to.
I understand. Okay. So yes, at 3 emails, I would probably stop. I might do one more, but I would wait until either Friday or Monday. Okay. I'm really interested in moving forward. I'd like to know next steps. I know you asked for my availability and that has now changed. Okay. But I'm happy to share new dates because I'm really excited to move forward. If you are still interested if you are no longer interested in pursuing my candidacy, please let me know. Okay. But if you are, then I would love to keep the conversations going. Okay. And then it would be the last one. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. One more thing that you could do in that last kind of an email is if you no longer think I'm the right fit for this position, I'd love to be able to keep in touch for future opportunities. Is that okay?
Yeah, I love that. I will certainly do that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I see Julie has her hand up. I want to add one more thing, Julie, before I do to the cracked crystal ball. And that is that we're seeing a lot more hiring and a lot less ghosting if you're looking at smaller companies. Smaller companies may be harder to find in terms of their opportunities, but remember to go directly to their websites. If there are some in your area, expand your search. It doesn't have to be, okay, these huge companies in order to do what you want. You might be able to find something and move more quickly in smaller companies because not everybody's looking there. And those smaller companies have the resources. If they're posting a position, they're more likely posting it because they're ready to hire. And I don't necessarily mean small being 25 people. I mean small being less than the Fortune 100. Okay. Julie,
Oh, okay, yes, hi.
hi.
Hi. About ghosting, that is, actually, I was ghosted twice. Well, I've been more than that before, but point is, I was in the final round of this one, and I wasn't too sure about the position anyway, but the point is I was ghosted, but they did ask an illegal question during the interview. And I should have not answered it, but I did. But for future, I will not. They asked if I was married or single. And the funny thing is, I think it's kind of funny. The owner, it was the final interview, the owner and the wife and the head of HR, but the owner and the wife, and he's asking me if I'm married.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I never heard back, from the final, oh, we'll let you know. But I wasn't, overly concerned. I wasn't going to, about it because I wasn't sure I would be able to take it. I just wanted to see if I was going to get an offer. Never heard. Well, since I've been job searching, of course, just like we all are, I see it's been reposted too.
Interesting.
So, yeah. I mean, and it's a local company. I mean, it's not like you said, a Fortune 500 or anything. It's bigger, a little bit of a smaller company. But point is, it's like, well, it is what it is. Some things you don't want to chase as much as, I mean, if you're really passionate about it, yeah, but maybe that was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, it tells you a little bit about the company culture too.
Yeah, I mean, if you're asked like that particular legal question, I've been told that you should just say, well, why does that matter to the position? Now, would that give them on the offense about
It
that?
might, but you know what? If they're offended by that, then that may not be the place you want to work for either.
That's what I was thinking as well, too.
Okay, so yes, there are unfortunately companies that are still asking some of those illegal questions. And I'm hearing them again rise up, and more than I had over the last several years, I'm seeing some of those questions about those illegal questions popping up again. So yes, if they ask that question, your response, if you want to give an answer, you can, although I don't know that it has any bearing, nor would I feel comfortable doing it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right.
So I probably might say, I've got a lot of supportive people in my life. Okay. Or I might go back to the idea of, one of the things that I think is important is the amount of time and the energy that I put into the job, and being married or single has no bearing on that.
And obviously, like you said, if they're offended by that, then it's not the right culture fit for you then, if they're going to be offended by that.
Exactly.
I thought we had a very easygoing conversation, honestly, after that point. I mean, the four of us, there's three and then me. So, it is what it is. I mean, you keep applying. Even in a temporary job, you keep applying. I'm sorry, one other question. If you get a temporary job, I know you keep applying, but what if it's another temporary job that you're interested in that could go beyond that? You keep
going. I don't care.
Okay, so keep, if it's another temporary job, great, it might be opportunity, even so.
Exactly. And I've got one more thought, and then I noticed that Ken Lang is in the group today. I'm going to ask him for his opinion as well. But because it was both the husband and the wife there, when they were asking that question about whether or not you're married, I might not answer it, but I might say, oh, it's so wonderful to be able to see both of you as part of this organization. I think that's great. And then let it go. And if they ask again, then give the negative. Okay, I don't want to answer that question. Okay, Ken, are you willing to join us?
Yeah, you have to repeat the question, or what was asked.
Julie, so the question itself was?
Just that, I was ghosted on this particular position, and they did ask an illegal question during the interview, if I was married or single. And ironically, I was in the final rounds, and it was the wife and the husband and wife, they own the company. And he's the one that asked the question, and she was in the interview with him with the head of HR.
That's such an inappropriate question. I don't even think I'd want to work at a place like that.
I wouldn't either.
I don't mean to laugh,
That's the
but
mindset.
yeah, yeah.
It sends
So,
a lot of red flags. I don't know if Sue has any thoughts or not too. I see her nodding her head.
I put it in the chat. I think HR, when they stepped out, said, we got to start the process over because you just did something that you're not allowed to ask salary, you can't ask marital, all of that. I think they're being really excessively cautious because you could have reported them.
Absolutely.
Maybe depending on the state.
Yeah, they might have just said, well, we don't want to, if you report them, we're going to be, it's almost like you've been a damaged, almost in a bad way, but you've been just kind of like negatively impacted by their questions. That would be my thought.
That would be mine as well, but I agree with Ken. It's not a place I don't want to work. And part of the problem with small companies is that they don't necessarily know what they can and can't ask. But if HR didn't go after the owners of the company after that interview and they were sitting in on it, okay, I would be extremely surprised.
yeah, I mean, the head of HR, she was really nice, really great, very explaining everything, gave me a tour of the facility afterward. I know that's usually a good sign. So, yeah, I mean, but there were some things about it that I wasn't too sure, even if, I thought I'll see if they offer, I'll go from there, and see if they do, if I do get an offer, but obviously, ghosted and did not, but yeah, but they did ask that.
Okay. Yeah. Very uncomfortable situation. Sorry about that. Thank you, Ken and Sue. Anybody else have a quick win to share? Kimberly, have you been able to come back on yet? Oh, Kristen, Lori.
Yeah. Hi, Linda. Thanks, everyone. Always great to be here. My win is just going out and meeting people in these organizations that I belong to. So this one was in my neighborhood and they're trying to, build these gargantuan high rises. And they said, well, no one from your neck of the woods comes to our meetings. Why? And I said, well, let me help you. And, all of a sudden I was collecting all these names, cell phone numbers. So I'm going to follow up with these people. And one of them said, hey, I'm moving to Florida, but I really know you're a leader and I really have a lot of contacts in Chicago. So please connect with me and I'll be sure to follow up with you. So you just don't know where you're going to find people. And I'm kind of like out there, on LinkedIn, even though I posted this video resume and trying to do contacts on LinkedIn, different styles for different strokes. And I think Bo had the same idea. He was out there, sharing his story with an organization. So different things work. You never know where you're going to stumble. You never know where you're going to run across somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody.
That's right. So follow up with those people, connect with them on LinkedIn too. And referrals and conversations. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Great tip for everybody. Okay, Carl.
Yeah, in the quick win category, looks like I might be in the final stages of one of your earlier topics, lining up a contract role, a 1099 gig as a interim general manager for a division within a company. So it's a smaller scope than I'm looking for more of I want to say there's no such thing as a permanent job, but for a full-time gig, a W-2 gig. But it is in a industry vertical that I'm interested in, and so it does sort of get me at least the ability to say, yes, I have actually worked full-time in that particular space, aerospace in this case. So it'll be a bit of an interesting logistics because it's about 6.5 hours away. So, but they are willing to do some kind of a stipend thing, and I guess the contract they implement all the changes that I asked for, and so I don't really have a way to say no now, I guess. So we're just waiting for waiting for the final version of that, and we'll see. And I hope it works out.
Absolutely. I think that's fantastic. And you're right. It gives you the opportunity to add something new, to add that industry shift. So now you've got that particular experience. But anytime you take a contract job, and I don't know how Ken or Sue feel about this, but my feeling is when you've got a contract job or a temporary job, you don't stop looking. You
Yeah, I
keep
think-
looking for the next job.
Yeah, that's my game plan, but I understand this sort of walking into a firestorm right now, so it'll be a pretty full-time contract gig, at least initially. The one question I do have is, if you do get that, and you maybe in your relatively recent history had a little bit of a short stint at a couple companies, all of which I had, very valid reasons for, I don't want to further the impression in my resume or my LinkedIn profile of a job hopper, right? So I want to include this maybe in that open to work current status versus showing currently employed with them as a contract, or maybe is it better to do that to show as currently employed as contract, even if it would add to the number of relatively recent rows, let's say in the last 4 years in the profile. Any thoughts or suggestions from the peanut gallery?
Ken, do you have a suggestion? If I can pick on you.
Pick
You can
on me.
always pick on me. I'm tough.
No, yeah. I mean, are you afraid this position is going to end soon and you're going to job hop after 2 or 3 months? And that's why you're kind of hesitant to put it down, because it's going to come across that way?
It is the contract for 6 months,
Right.
with a mutual 30-day termination clause in there.
Uh-huh.
So, and by the way, on a side gig, if anyone wants to throw in stuff, hey, make sure your contract has this in there, I'd be glad, because I've never done this before. I'd be glad to take that input as well. But coming back to your question, no, I don't think it's going to be ultra short. But again, even a 6-month gig it adds another row, and visually to show 3 or 4 different rows in a 3 or 4 year time period.
So what? So what? That's the way
I
this,
agree.
that's the way that things are now. There is no security. It shows you're working. I
Okay.
think there's too many mindsets about the way things were, and that's not the way things are now.
And that's exactly right. Thanks, Ken, because that's exactly what I was going to say. I would rather see you have it on there. Okay. You can list it as a contract. People know contracts have a set time frame. But going from job to job to job is this way that things work right now. Longevity isn't part of the process. In fact, one of the things that I'm hearing from some hiring managers is if people have been in the same company for too long, that's a red flag.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, because you're doing things only one way. So yeah, I would add it.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. I saw somebody else have a hand up, maybe. Did I miss it? Pam.
I was just going to say, if you're nobody's going to check. And I think we need to keep that in mind. If you don't put it up there, nobody's going to go investigating you to see, I wonder, did he go and work for somebody else and he's not telling us? So if you don't put it up there, nobody's going to know. If the experience is good, I would put it up. And I honestly, what Linda said, I don't think anybody cares that you're at a place for less than 2 years.
Even if it's only 6 months.
We're in a
Okay.
gig economy. This is how it is.
And that's exactly right. We are in a gig economy. I think that it's important to know that you are working in an organization, that you're not, that in and of itself tells me that you have some valuable skills that other people have taken advantage of. And that's a good thing. Okay. Whether it's for a 3-month contract or it's a 5-year stint of employment. You've got experience, you've got skills that you can demonstrate, and adding it to the resume now gives you additional things that you can build off of for that next role.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. Other questions? Dina.
So I'm in the final stages, or I think a final stage of an interview process. This is going to be my 5th interview re-meeting with the hiring manager today. I know I keep getting hopped around. But in the last interview I had, somebody had asked me whether I thought I was too senior for the role. I'm finding that, I had a good response in terms of like why I was interested in the role, getting new experience that I haven't had before. But I think where I'm struggling is if they think I'm too senior for the role, that also means compensation wise, they may not also provide me with what I'm looking for. So I actually have my last interview today. So I'm curious about whether compensation will come up in this conversation and being aligned on what that would look like if I'm maybe a little too overqualified.
It might be, and sometimes you're right. That whole idea of you're too overqualified is code for you're too expensive. Okay. It's also code for will you be satisfied if the job doesn't include all of that? So it's up to you to go through, and it sounds like you're already doing it, why you want this role, why this role is important to you. Okay. All the things that you think you can do in this role. Okay. Based on what it is. Compensation may come up. Dina, have you done your research?
I have, but I feel like I'm seeing conflicting information. It's like an HR and operations role in a nonprofit. So I'm seeing on the higher end, and then I'm also seeing like on the lower end as well.
So what I might do is instead of giving them a number, turn it back around on them. What's your budget? What's the salary range? Okay. I'm assuming the job is in Illinois. Okay. Unfortunately, Illinois doesn't require us to post those ranges until January 1st. But starting January 1st, you're going to get a lot more information. But I would ask them what their range is or what their budget is. As a nonprofit, you should be able to know that. The other thing is, as a nonprofit, you may be able to go back and take a look at their latest information from last year to see what they paid the person who was in that role.
It's actually a newly created role. I learned through the process, but yes, I found their 990s online. So I was able to get a sense of their budget and what maybe some of the higher officers are being paid.
Okay, so that gives you some idea then of where this position might fall, even though it's a new role. So if you can't get the information from them, then what I would do would be to try and come up with something that's in that range based on what those other jobs are. And what's nice about it is the 990s give you some of that information that you might not have any other way. And for those of you who don't know what a 990 is, if you're looking at a nonprofit organizations have to share a lot of information publicly, including their salary information for certain levels of employees. So you've got all of that information already there to give you good basis for what you want to do moving forward. So, yeah. Good luck. Keep us posted. Anybody else have a quick win? Bo, you've got another, okay?
How do you track down that information on a nonprofit you just mentioned? That's valuable stuff to know. Maybe Dina can help with us.
So, Dina, can you share how you found the 990?
My husband actually found it for me, so I don't exactly know. But let me do a little research and I can put it in the chat here.
Perfect. So nonprofit corporations are required to do that. So all you need to do to some extent, Bo, is type in the name of the organization 2023 990 and see what pops up. You do it as a Boolean search.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Lewis.
Yes, there we go. I'm unmuted. So my win comes from last week. Imagine somebody requesting that they think you should attend a industry related mixer, and then because it's beneficial to you. So then you get there, and of course you don't know anybody, and everybody there are the major players in the industry, but they all know each other and all have titles and they're GMs of hotels, and CEOs of hospitality organizations. So I was not sure I'm looking for work and I'm trying to network. So I found my in, which is always who gets the food first and where do they go sit down and who do they sit down with? So I went and did that. And my goal was to get 5 business cards at least. And I reached that and technically got a 6, but she didn't have her business card with her. And so it was just really hard and very challenging for me to tell people I'm looking for work because they kept pressing me. Well, what do you want to do? What kind of job? Why? One person said, why are you here? Because they said we're an organization for people in our industry who are currently employed. And I went, yeah, I realized that. But I tried to explain, that I'm new to the area. I'm looking to network with people in the industry. It was the Lodging Hotel Association for the state. So it was just very challenging for me, but I did get some contacts and a couple of them have already replied. And then I'll follow up with the ones that said, please reach out to me, but I haven't heard from you.
That's great. So a couple of things that I think are important, one of which is never be afraid to go to an industry event, whether it's for people who are employed or not. If they're asking you, why are you there? It's not just I'm networking, I'm new to the area. I'm here to learn from you. You all have such great information, and I'm looking to expand my knowledge of the area. I've been in the area before, okay, or in these kinds of jobs before, and I really want to be able to learn from the best in the industry. It's also important to make sure you have your elevator pitch down before you walk in the door, so that when they're asking you what you're looking for, you can spit it back at them.
Well, and I did. It's just some people get nervous, and being the introvert, I'm a little more nervous on not wanting to mess it up because you only get that one opportunity. And I don't know what the peanut gallery feels, but, in the sense of I've never particularly worked in a hotel. I've done the back end where I've had events that I've planned and put them in hotels, but never worked on the front end. So I'm just trying to explain to them, based on what you said, that, I'm trying to learn, but also I would love the opportunity to work for a resort or hotel in town or in the area. If the opportunity exists at some point. As you always say, and everybody says, you're not there to ask them for a job, which I didn't, but I did tell them what I was looking for when they asked.
And you should, absolutely. Let us know how it goes. What kind of follow-up you get.
Yep.
Okay. By the way, Ken and Sue, if you all have anything to chime in, please do at any point. Okay. Just raise your hand so that I know you're here. Okay.
I've got my hand raised.
Who's that?
David Ball.
I know, I'm just bringing you up.
Oh. Sometimes I don't know if you can see my hand up because of my banner in the background. How are you?
It's pretty good. Well, good, thanks. How are you?
Doing great. I was looking at the invitation to this thing, which was resume do's and don'ts. I missed about the first 8 to 10 minutes. So I didn't know if you went through all those already, but or if there was a litany or if it kind of went.
We're getting ready to go into those now. So if you've got a quick question about resumes, let's do it.
Okay. So my question was about the quintessential question about when you're submitting a resume. They say Word document or they say PDF. Which one? Right? Because I know PDF solidifies the document the way I am making it. But if you send someone a Word document and they have a different version, doesn't your words go all over the page and get missed? Because your Word document is interpreted by their version of Word. You know what I mean? With returns and with any kind of other kind of elements that you put into your Word document to make it as clean as you can. But then it would skew depending on the different versions. So I always thought PDF would be more sensible, but a lot of people there are saying no, Word document. So would love your opinion.
All right. So I think there's 2 different things. One of which is when it's going into an applicant tracking system. The older applicant tracking systems read Word, but they don't read PDFs well. Unless the applicant tracking system is saying specifically submit it as Word or PDF, you're free to do it either way. I like it if you want to do it as a PDF to the or one version to the applicant tracking system as your upload. But I personally, and this is only my personal preference, my personal preference is for you to attach it as a Word document rather than attach it as a PDF. And the reason for that, again, my own personal prejudice and my own personal preference is that if this is somebody that I really want to contact, it is easier for me not to necessarily take my notes in the applicant tracking system, but to take my notes on my own system. And it's easier for me to find you if it's a Word doc than if it's a PDF. That may just be my own lack of computer sophistication. Okay, but I like them.
I
Your
see.
choice as to which way you want to do it. But the systems will normally read it either way. The other thing is with a Word doc, yes, there are lots of different versions of Word out there, but what will often happen is, especially if somebody is trying to save that Word doc, it will upgrade it to the newest version or whatever version that company has so that it makes sense for them. Yes, you may lose a little bit of the formatting, but not enough to worry about. Ken, what are you saying? What do you recommend?
I'm going to look at this a little differently. When you send a Word document, I would include the job rec or the job ID as part of it to make it that much easier for a recruiter, not just like Ken Lang resume, July 2024, so that way they know exactly how to find it. That's one of the things recruiters have told me too. They want to make it as easy as possible to be able to find it. I don't know, Linda, you have more recruiting background than me. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. And I apologize. I'm keeping trying to find you and I can't find you on the screen. There you go.
Yep,
Okay.
I'm here.
You need to raise your hand next time. Just so that, because I will only because
Okay.
I want to be able to bring you up. Okay.
Okay.
But I absolutely agree. Anytime you're submitting a resume, the name of that resume should be your name, the position name. Okay. That does several things. Not only does it say that I can find it easily, but it tells me that you've made the effort, even if it's just in naming convention, but made the effort to say, this is this job, this resume for this particular job. And I absolutely want to see it that way. Sue.
I just want to remind people that, and I've been noticing more in the last few months, Microsoft has listened to complaints and it's made it easier for when a Word file comes to me, for example, from parts of the global world. We don't get the odd shapes we used to get going from A4 paper to letter. If you're concerned and wanting to share it in Word, which is great because I not only take notes, but Linda, what I do is I want to block and copy things, and sometimes PDFs save as not OCR. You can't grab the text, but you could save it as the lower level file, the .doc file, because we've all been listening in the last 2 years to Ken, Lynn Williams, Brenda, others who say, strip out the formatting. It shouldn't be fancy. It should be capital letters, a little bit of bold, a little italics. That stuff will stand in the doc file. Maybe your 2 pages goes to 3 pages because someone's got their display different. That doesn't matter. People scroll as long as they want to scroll now. They don't print it. So I think if you do one thing, it's just downgrade your save level. Don't make it a complete plain text file, but that way you'll still have a nicely formatted document and you can still send it in Word if that's your preference.
Mm-hmm. Great points. And I agree. So I do copy and paste as well. Thank you. Other resume questions? Okay. So Sue's right. Okay. I'm a believer in plain, simple, old, dull, boring Word documents or PDF documents. Remember that when we're reading your resume, we're reading them on screen. The days when you wanted to add the color and this fancy formatting, if I had a lot of hard copy resumes that I'm sifting through, yeah, the color might make it stand out for me, but on screen, the color is hard to read. And I don't want that. And hiring managers tell us that all of that fancy formatting may actually work against you because I don't know where to look. Hiring managers want something very plain and simple and easy so that they not only know where to look, but that they can easily see how you match their job. Remember, you've got 2 to 7 seconds, 2 to 9 seconds maximum for that initial scan. You want to make sure that I'm getting enough information about you to be able to want to scan further. If it's not at the top of the page, top third of the page, I may not continue to read. So don't bury the headline. Okay, don't bury the good stuff. Ken, what do you think about resumes?
Oh, I didn't have my hand up.
I
mean,
know. When I saw your name.
I'm a big believer also from a formatting standpoint. You know, first of all, there should be one resume maybe for an ATS and a different one going to a recruiter because they may look at it differently. But I know visually, I hate resumes that have like a straggly, like one word on the next line sort of thing. I would try to format it so it looks as clean as possible, but that's me being a bit anal as an editor that way. But I also think resumes are such a small part of this. You know, it's just the beginning point. I mean, I think it's having a LinkedIn profile and also networking. I think anyone who's coming today, it's a great step, and I hope everyone connects with each other too. Do you guys save the chat here, by the way?
We do.
So then you should be connecting with everyone here as a follow-up and finding out how you can help and support each other.
Absolutely. And the idea of resumes, yes, resumes get your foot in the door. Okay. Resumes are a required part of the process, but the resume isn't going to get you the job. The resume gets you the chance to talk about the job.
Mhm.
So plain, simple, absolutely. David.
Hi again. So I have a question about then when applying for several positions, I'm a senior level creative director, right? But some of the descriptions of jobs that I'm applying for will say art director or associate creative director, but it'll be a very involved job description, which is far above the quote title. So should I be changing my title on my resume so that the recruiter doesn't see that I'm above the thing, or should I and rename it that lower position? Because none of my positions that I've been doing would have that lower title. So I'd be almost reformatting the whole resume. So, you know, I've been a senior for a while. So I'm just wondering what the strategy would be when the job is right for me, but the description of it is much higher than the title is showing.
Yeah, and that's a good one because titles change so much from company to company, David. There is no consistency as to what a creative director is in job in company A versus company B. Okay, so you're absolutely right. So the title of the resume is the title of the job that you're applying for.
Okay, so do change the title, my title, even though it's different.
So title of the resume. So you're applying for X job.
Yes.
If you're putting underneath your name and your contact information and you're saving your resume as something, you're saving it as whatever their title is. Not yours, what theirs is.
I'm not sure I understand.
So if the title is creative director, and you've been a creative, no, their title is creative manager, yours is creative director as an example. Right. Okay. You're labeling the resume creative manager.
Oh, in the nomenclature of the title of the resume.
Correct.
On the file. Okay, the file name.
Okay, so the file name, not only the file name, but I also recommend putting the name of the position you're applying for actually at the top of the resume itself. So that they can visually see that you're applying for the job they're looking for. Okay. In terms of the companies or the titles that you're using on your job itself, honestly, and I don't know about Ken, but I read a lot of resumes. I don't care if you're changing the title of your position.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Especially when you go on LinkedIn and do a job search for a job title and you see so many different job titles for different companies that are doing the same thing. You can go crazy.
Absolutely. Okay. And on LinkedIn, you need to make sure that you're using their drop downs. Okay. So changing the title on your resume or changing the title on LinkedIn, absolutely fine.
Okay. I think I understand now.
Okay, good. Anybody else have a resume question before I keep going? Okay. Julie,
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just had a quick question. I didn't understand what you meant when you said, use their drop downs on LinkedIn.
okay. So on LinkedIn, when you're putting in your job titles, start typing it and see what pops up from LinkedIn's job search. Okay. Ken, you're more of the LinkedIn.
Well, I was actually working with someone today and they told me the job that they wanted and it wasn't on the drop down. So I said, you need to change for the drop down so it matches so you're searched. It may be your job title may be different, but you have to align it to what LinkedIn says it is. And it's you can't, I mean, you can create it, but it won't show up in their searches then. So that's really right on point to what Julie just brought up. Yeah.
Right. And it's tough because you want to use your terminology. You want to use the terminology of the company that you were in. So sometimes what I recommend is that you do a hyphenated title. You do the title that you had, and then dash, and then the drop-down title, so that you've got them both there. If you're really concerned about the title that you had before and making sure that it stands out, it's important. But those drop-down titles are important because if somebody is doing a search for somebody to do a certain role, they're using those drop-downs. They're not using your creative title or your company's creative title. And a lot of us had titles that don't show up anywhere other than the company we were with. Does that help, Julie? You
look confused. I'm still confused. I'm still confused. I don't know where you would. What are you talking about when you're talking about drop down menus?
Okay. So when you're trying, go ahead, Ken.
No, I go ahead. No,
I was gonna say, when you start typing a title, where you type in a skill.
In the search.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's in the search, but even as you're putting it into your
when you
profile.
create a position on LinkedIn and it's asking you what the position is after your company,
right,
and you start typing the words, you want to make sure that the words under there match up to what the drop down on LinkedIn is. If it's a title that you had there that is not on LinkedIn, when you do start typing the words in, it's not going to be found. Does that make sense?
Okay, so you're talking about when you're putting it in your profile?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought when you were searching for a job and I was just, okay.
No.
Oh, all right. Now I got it. Okay.
This is
Thank
so
you.
people can search for you.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you.
Uh-huh. So Ken, what would be your 3, since I can pick on you? You don't mind, right? Okay. I mean, you do this a lot.
Yeah.
What would be your 3 top things that you want to make sure that you see on a resume?
I want to know what's in it for me as a future hiring manager. I don't care about what you did in the past. I want to know, what can you do for me in your past? What past accomplishment will resonate with me? And too many people just do a task list. I don't care what you did. I mean, it's great that you did it, but what's in it for me? I mean, that's the first thing. I'm also I see so many resumes that have so many relics on them that really dates them. If I see another thing that has summary or profile on it or references upon request, I'm going to go,
Or a Yahoo or AOL account.
yeah. And also people sometimes, again, this is part of the way it used to be. People have a phone number, selling a home phone number. In this day and age, you only have one phone number. And I would ask you, Linda, a lot of resumes I get are very specific to the location of where the person lives. Would you recommend they do it by a metropolitan area or do a zip code? Because I'm not really sure what the answer is to that.
So on LinkedIn, I absolutely recommend a metropolitan area.
Mm-hmm.
You can put in your zip code as part of that background. It doesn't show up anywhere, but it helps you if you're putting in a search within a certain radius, it will help that. Or if a recruiter is looking for within a certain radius, that will work. But on your resume itself, honestly, you don't always need to include even the city and state in which you live. I still recommend it, But if you're going to do it, I might say greater Chicago area or greater New York area.
And take the street address off also,
Oh.
please.
Absolutely no street addresses on anything. Okay, you need it on your application, but that's the only place you need it.
Yep. And take off the references upon request.
We know you're going to provide those.
Yeah.
Okay, don't do that. It dates you. Don't put an objective. Unless this is your very first job out of school, I don't care what you want to do. I want to know what you can do for me.
And my latest thing is I bust my Leah Harrison's people's chops. They say I effectively did this, and I say if it wasn't effective, would you put it on your resume? Successfully did this. Well,
I'm a person who says no adjectives. Okay, if you've been successful at it, demonstrate it to me. Give me an accomplishment, a highlight, a result, and put it either in a highlight section or an accomplishment section at the top of the page. And in addition, I want to see additional ones under each job. Every bullet that you include on your resume should start with an action verb or a number, a result. Not tasks. What did you do? What was the accomplishment? What was the result? And it should be the most significant things that you've done that relate to the new job, not just everything you've ever done. Also means for me, reading the resume, that I'm really looking for no more than 4, maybe 5 maximum bullets under every job. And that's just me. I'm not going to skim beyond that. If I want more information, I'm going to ask. And that's what the resume is for.
And don't throw 2 or 3 bullet points on a job that you just left and do 5 or 7 or 10 from the jobs in the past. Really just think about it, because I can tell it from a mile away. You just lost your job. You're just throwing this together.
Exactly. Okay. I like to see the same number on every job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And that's, again, a visual. It's a recruiter kind of cue, but that's what we like to see. Thanks, Ken. And thanks for letting me pick on you.
No problem. I mean, you can pick on me anytime.
Okay. Be careful what you ask for. Louis.
Yes. So I have 2 quick things. One, the only way I could apply for this job is through Indeed. So I know a lot of people say, oh, yeah, Indeed. But sometimes that's all you got. You know, the employer doesn't list it anywhere on a website. Anyways, I got a message back because it says you have a message in Indeed. And the message was, I see your resume says you're in Atlanta, but this job is in Tucson. Now I'm in Tucson, and I went, huh. And I looked at my resume, and you guys have been talking. It has nothing as to where I'm at. It has my name and contact info. That's it. So I'm still looking on Indeed to see, well, where does it say I live in Atlanta versus live in Tucson? Because again, I don't list that anywhere because I need to be, do I want to move back to Atlanta kind of attitude. So any ideas of if you've used Indeed or anybody on here, like maybe I'm missing something? Because when they said on my resume, I'm like, I didn't put that on my resume, and I didn't put it on my application with you guys. So it was kind of confusing, and I don't want people to think I'm only Atlanta based. When y'all talked about you don't have to put your location if you don't want to, I don't for a reason. So
was your last job in Atlanta?
Well, the job that I list is my entrepreneurial job, and it doesn't say Atlanta. I don't have, you know, where I'm at. So that's why I was confused.
So the last job that you did list the location, Louis?
On my resume, I don't have anything that says Atlanta, you know, so that's what's confusing. I mean, when you, unless I say it's an organization and it says Atlanta in it, I mean, but that would be several, you know, a couple things before they're even looking, you know, so, you know, you say you got 2 to 9 seconds. So if they're scanning, I was like, huh, where did I put Atlanta in?
Unless because you've put in so few that they were using some sort of a filter and it pulled up Atlanta. I can't tell you.
That's okay. I just told them, no, I'm in Tucson and I'm very much interested and kind of, fluffed it up. So if they're interested in looking at me, they will. The other thing I wanted to ask is a recruiter told me that a client, based on the resume and information I gave her, was passing on me. And she said that I don't have enough consistent experience in the industry. And I thought, consistent. When we're entrepreneurs, with several of us on here where we're doing contract roles and we put us like that, as recruiters and what have you, when y'all see that, are you considering that not to be consistent, even though mine says, at least 10 years of consistently being an entrepreneur? Because again, she just said that's just what the client said and they weren't going to move forward with me. But I was just curious what if you're looking at a resume, are you questioning that? Is that a do or don't? Do I need to be more specific? I don't understand.
Well, I'd like to see some of the jobs you were doing in that entrepreneurial role, or some of the work you did, some of the accomplishments. But just because you were an entrepreneur and you were working with a lot of different companies, does that mean that I'm going to rule you out? Absolutely not.
Okay. Then, I mean, again, that must be the employer, their client, just for many different reasons we discussed. They already had somebody, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So I was just curious because it was a little frustrating going, if they don't see that as that, then I need to ask people, what should I clearly make it to say, this is what I do while I pursue, full-time work, which is
And
what I'm doing.
I'd say that on the resume.
Okay.
Okay. Which tells them that what you're doing, who you're working for, and the kinds of work that you've been doing. And I would add some accomplishments in there through that process as well.
Yeah, I just wish I know this is a wish. I wish the recruiter was able to help me a little more, but I know how, they're not going to. I get that.
Yeah.
It's a recruiter with an employment agency, but would have been nice to get a little more insight from them, not the client, on, well, how do you want me to position myself? They did say they would consider me for future stuff, which is great. They all usually say that. I just was baffled. I'm like, well, this is the first time it's come in front of me. So I was like, let me start asking people, how do I need to position myself if I'm doing it wrong? Because I don't need that. I don't need employers to think what they thought.
And I would definitely, if it's an outside recruiter, Louis, I would ask them for their advice. How would you, if you were to present me to this client, how would you have preferred that I position this? Or for future clients? Okay, because I want to make sure that I'm doing it in a way that makes your job easy for you, recruiter.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we're past our time. So I'm willing to stay just another minute or two, or a couple minutes. So we're going to make this the last question at the moment. Elena.
Actually, I don't have a question. I wanted to answer Louis's question.
Okay.
As of location. One, Google yourself and see what location Google thinks you're at. And two, your LinkedIn profile says Atlanta. So they do check, most recruiters do check your LinkedIn profile with your resume.
Absolutely. In fact, we're finding that recruiters, hiring managers are looking at your LinkedIn profile in greater depth, in many cases, than they are your LinkedIn profile and activity in greater depths than they are your resume, at least as that initial scan, once they've got you in there. So,
and one more thing, when you do Google search, it depends on the state. Surprisingly, different states have different search engines for people. So you gotta check at least two locations in your case. That's it.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Louis, double check your LinkedIn profile. If it says Atlanta, you need to change that.
It does, and maybe that's where they found it.
And that could be. So change it to where you are now.
Gotcha.
Okay. So that's a great way to end this right now. We want to make sure that the information you have on LinkedIn as well as on your resume is current. So if you haven't done it recently, double check. Don't use a specific city. Again, LinkedIn drop downs work. So instead, it may be Phoenix, it may be Scottsdale, it may be Phoenix metropolitan area, whatever it is that they're using. If you're in the Chicago area, don't put your city, put Greater Chicago. Okay, same thing with New York. We had a very wide-ranging discussion today. Thank you all. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Sue, very much for helping me with all of this and sharing your insights because they're really important to all of us. Remember, we're going to continue all of this in the private chat. I think I added that again, but let me do it now. Okay.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you all. Okay, so I'm adding this information. If you want to save the chat, you can do that. If you're on a PC, normally up at the top of the screen, next to where it says Job Search Lunch and Learn, there'll be 3 dots off to the right. You can click on those and it will save chat or save file. In some situations, it's going to be at the very bottom of the chat screen, down where it's next to send your message to everyone. Again, you're going to see those 3 dots. You can also just highlight everything in the chat and copy that into a document yourself. But I will take that chat and I will save it and it will move into our private group later this afternoon. Sometimes I will warn you that those links remain active. Sometimes they don't. But that's a LinkedIn thing. I try as much as I can to make them active links. Make sure that you connect with one another, share your ideas, your questions, your concerns. And the other thing I'd really like is either in the chat before you leave or in our private group, please share your ideas for new topics, things you'd like to see us discuss. And if you're doing that either in the chat or in the private group, please start that post, that comment with an all caps future idea, just so that I know and I can easily find it. Okay. AI and job search. Thank you, Lois. I appreciate you all being here. Thank you all. Remember, by the way, that there's also going to be an AI summary of the meeting today. I don't edit that, but it is another way of trying to give us some ideas and reminders about what we talked about. How to post. Is that post on LinkedIn, David?
Yes, how to post on LinkedIn and how to show your personal brand and feature something. That's just one of the most good way to get so many new impressions.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye. I will get this posted in a little while. I'm going to keep the meeting open for about 5 minutes, just so that if anybody wants to copy the chat, they can do so. Bye, guys. Have a great week.
Bye. Thank you.
I'm gonna send my email to you again. I think it's going to your spam, Linda.
Must be, because I'm not getting it, Lewis.
Usually you'll respond, so I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Send it again.
okay, thanks.
No, thank you.